Hey, I'm Rob for JestaThaRogue.com, and it's my favourite slightly variable time of year when I look at my top 50 games of all time. As usual, I'll do quick one-liners for the first 40, then go into my top 10 in a bit more detail. I will take regular breaks from the craziness as we go. Let's begin. At 50, we start in the trenches. It's the intense limited communication co-op card game, The Grizzled. We forge a path to the next game at number 49, the fun tile laying and pathway making elimination game, Suro. 48 explodes with cuteness. It's the bomb construction hand management game of give and take that, ARG, animals revolt against humans. 47 is the game with marching skeletons. It's the competitive and co-op tower defense game, Bad Bones. 46 is a new entry. It's the drafting set collection game, Seven Wonders Architects. 45 is the oldest game on this list as we go back to 90,000 BC. It's the heavy asymmetric action selection game, Dominant Species. 44 has its pleasing Zeus. It's the dice-based action selection pick up and deliver feld game, The Oracle of Delphi. 43 is the best game about food chains. It's the fun bluff double bluff card game, Om Nom Nom. 42 has us entertaining and cleaning up after robots. It's the real-time dice rolling and action selection game, Steam Park. And at 41 we have another new entry. It's the dice placement Euro game set in Osaka, Japan, The White Castle. Okay, that is 10 down and 40 to go. And just a reminder to like, share and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Every interaction with the video really helps a lot and doesn't cost anything, so any help is appreciated. This is usually one of my most watched videos of the year, so the more people that watch it, the more subscribers I'll pick up. So the more you interact with the video, the more people see it, so that it gets that ball rolling in my favour. So any help you can give me, I will really appreciate. Okay, on with the list. 40 is a flipping good time for up to 8 players. It is the auto battler one-on-one tournament style card game, Challengers. 39 is a bit of a gamble. It's the card driven racing and betting game, Downforce. 38 fought off its redesigned rival. It's the card driven area control game, Ethnos. 37 is a simple deck building game, one set in the DC universe, the DC Comics deck building game. 36 is also a simple deck building game, one that is set in the Penny Arcade universe, Penny Arcade, Gamers vs Evil. 35 is a classic social deduction game. It's the Arthurian, the Resistance, Avalon. 34 is a simple deck building game. This one is set in a fantasy world of hero realms. 33 is a former joint number 1 for many years. I've just fallen out of love with the space themed Gaia project. 32 is hot right now, but I guarantee I would have forgotten it by the next list. It's the huge co-op adventure game I've not long finished playing, ISS Vanguard. And 31 is based on a popular video game. It's the one versus many card driven cat and mouse game, Dead by Daylight. Okay, another 10 down, 30 more to go, time for another break. Did you know I've done how to play videos for 7 of the games I've mentioned and 18 of the games I'm about to mention? They are quick, and some of the older ones are too quick, but they do give a comprehensive rules overview to use as a rules refresher. A monthly one of those, along with the top 10 video like this one, but a bit shorter, makes up the bulk of my content every month, so that sounds like something you'd like to see more often, then hit subscribe. Okay, back to the list. At 30, we're stirring it up a bit. It's the push-your-luck bag builder, The Quacks of Quedlinburg. 29 has you getting things in order. It's the pattern building card game, Game of Trains. Number 28 is Rumbunctious. It's the pirate-themed racing and take that game, Jamaica. 27 is a table Hogwarts. It's the Magic School worker placement game, Argent the Consortium. Number 26 was nearly banned from this list. It's the deck building civilization game, Monumental. At 25, it's the crazy co-op action programming campaign game, Mechs vs Minions. 24 is a game about planning that requires a lot of planning. It's the tableau building, Let's Go to Japan. 23 was also nearly banned from the list. It's the cooperative card game, Samurai Spirit. 22 is the mayor of social deduction. It's the word game, Werewords. 21 is the highest ranked deck builder in the list. It's the route building game, Trains. Okay, time to take another quick break. Now I mentioned before I do top 10 videos every month. So if you're enjoying this one, why not hit subscribe for more top 10 videos every month? Okay, let's get back to the list. Into the top 20 with the push your luck auction game, No Thanks. Number 19 is my top ranked social deduction game. It's the fast playing One Night Ultimate Supervillains. 18 is not just for kids, it's a simultaneous action selection racing game, King Frog. 17 is a classic reprinted in 2023. It's the timeless area control game, El Grande. 16 is a game I haven't played the re-theme of yet. It's the fairly in-depth Euro game, Mombasa. 15 would be higher if it was shorter. It's the app-driven worker placement game, My Father's Work. 14 is a game I've played a lot this year. It's the superhero living card game, Marvel Champions. 13 is a classic of its genre. It's the tower laying game, Carcassonne. 12 is a classic of its genre. It's the drafting game 7 Wonders. And just missing out in the top 10 is the token-heavy area influence game Small World. Okay, it's the final break before the top 10, so I'll keep it short. As I said, like, shares and subscribe really help the channel, but if you want to help the channel even more, for just 99p a month, you can become a channel member. This will make you a member of the Rogues Gallery. I don't actually have anything to offer right now, so currently you'll get access to some custom emojis. How fun! I will have another tier coming at the end of the year with some actual useful perks, but until then, like, share and subscribes also always work very well. Okay, time for the top 10.
Number 10.
Number 10 is definitely not a game for everyone, but I find it so much fun. It's Marvel Zombies, a zombicide game. Players are zombie heroes or villains attacking and killing human agents of Hydra while trying to survive and complete a mission. To make things worse, living superheroes or villains can appear and are much harder to defeat than the lowly Hydra soldiers. The main mechanisms are action point allowance as you use actions to move, attack and use abilities, as well as dice rolling for combat. I like the variety of playable characters that all have different abilities themed to the hero, as well as the variety in spawning in different scenarios, keeping you guessing on what will come and what you will get turn to turn. I know Zombicide has a bad name and people think it's overdone and it's a bit silly, and yeah, it kind of is. But adding the Marvel theme, being able to play as the zombies and having all these really cool minis on the table makes it a lot of fun for me. And hey, if you don't like Marvel, there's DC too.
Number 9.
Okay, let's get the weight of the games up a bit and let's start making that money. It's Power Grid Deluxe. Players are building a route of power stations across the country of choice, buying fuel for them, fueling them to power cities that gives income that can be used to further improve that route of money-making power stations. This game is all about turn order. In turn order, players start an auction for a new power plant until everyone has bought one. Then resources are purchased in reverse turn order with the cost of those resources cheaper the more there are, so getting there first costs less. Then players build generators on the board in reverse turn order, with spaces in cities cheaper for the player that gets there earlier. Gaining money for powering generators over several rounds gives players the ability to buy bigger power plants, which in turn will allow them to power longer routes of generators. In the final turn, the player that powers the most generators in that turn and that turn only wins the game. Now obviously you want to try and get ahead to buy big power stations so that you can have big long routes of generators building up towards that final turn. But sometimes you might just want to scale back a little bit, allow people to go ahead so you can take advantage of that turn order, go last and get some stuff for cheaper. I really like the repetitive rounds, the maths, and getting annoyed when I can't win an auction for a power plant I want. Seriously though, just the way the game plays and the way that the turn order changes your plans and expectations as you're going makes this a really fun Euro and a game I really enjoy playing.
Number 8.
Number 8 is similar to Power Grid, in which you take repetitive turns trying to earn money. It's Suburbia. Players have their own suburb and each turn they will buy a tile from a selection available and add it to their own suburb. These tiles will, thematically, raise or lower the player's reputation and or income. They may also affect the other tiles in your suburb and maybe even tiles in your other players' suburbs. For example, building a factory next to a residential tile is going to lower your reputation, but building a commercial tile will increase your income. Reputation increases your population, income gives you cash to spend on new tiles. Of course, if they're in the negative at the end of your turn, you have to pay money or lose population. This is key, as at the end of the game, after scoring some personal and public goals with population as a reward, the player with the most population wins. So you buy tiles to increase your population and income, you gain that income, you increase your population, and then you buy more tiles. Simple. But balancing reputation and income throughout the game, especially early on, is key because as your population rises, you cross red lines that drop your income and reputation down one each. So you need to curb your growth early on because you don't want to outgrow your ability to spend, but you don't want to have the handbrake on for too long or you get left behind population wise. All in all, it's such a fun, easy to play tile laying game.
Number 7.
Okay, for number 7, I'm going to do something that I've done for the 5th time on this list and something I wish I could do a lot more often in real life. Let's go to Japan with samurai. A Japan-shaped board is covered with figures representing samurai, peasants and priests. Players each have a matching set of tiles that mostly also have samurai, peasants and priests on them. They are shuffled and a hand is drawn. Players take turns playing one to surround one of these figures on the board, then drawing a new one. When a figure is fully surrounded, the players that have the most influence around that token takes it. If there's a tie, it's removed from the game instead, and at the end of the game, players get a point for each of the 3 casts that people have the most in, and if a player's got 2 points, they win the game. And if it's tight, it goes down to whoever's got the second most of things, it's a thing. Of course, some tiles have tricks like influencing all 3 types, or are able to play on water or switch tiles or even tokens. You don't have enough tiles to surround everything yourself and win the game, so you need to be able to nip in and steal and snipe whenever you can. It's a very nice looking game, it's quick and tactical, and yes, it can be frustrating when somebody steals something from you, but it's a nice looking game, it's very calming so you don't notice, to a point.
Number 6.
Number 6 takes us from the calming to the brutal, the most brutal card game on this list. It's even got blood right there in the title. It's Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game. Players manage a Blood Bowl team made up of different Warhammer Fantasy races and use deck building style mechanism to era controlled matches to gain fans and win the game for having the most fans. I say deck building style because it is a deck building game, but you only cycle through your deck once or twice and you add cards to your deck in a slightly different way than normal, so it's deck builder-ish. Assigning players activates their abilities, such as quick players represented by drawing cards, strong players able to attack by rolling dice, and players with good ball handling picking up or stealing the ball from an opponent. Winning the matches offers other non-fan based rewards, such as upgrading your basic starting players into star players or adding team upgrades giving you special abilities. I don't want to say too much because Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight are no longer working together, so this game probably won't be available ever again in its current form. But second-hand copies of the game are much cheaper than when I did this list last year, however you do still need to take out a small bank loan to buy any of the expansions.
Number 5.
At number 5 it's St. Petersburg 2nd edition. Players are using set collection, tableau building and engine building in order to gain money and points over the course of the game to have the most points to win. Players simply use their money to buy cards from those available. At the start of each phase in a round, new cards from a different deck representing a different area of society are added, so there's always plenty to choose from. And just like power grid, turn order and phase order are really important. In the first phase, green worker cards are laid out. When everyone is done buying from the cards available, workers in your tableau reward money. In the building phase, blue building cards are added, and then blue building cards in the player's tableau reward points, money and or abilities. Then red noble cards are added, and red noble cards in the player's tableau reward points and or money. Finally, exchange cards are added, which are made up of the other card types but replace ones in your tableau instead of adding to it. As cards in the phase you're in are the only cards that are going to give you anything, you need to have a plan so that you get consistent income every round so you can keep spending. Each of these phases has its own start player token. These are passed to the left at the start of each round, so you always get the first choice of a card at least in one of the phases. And I've breezed over this again because it is out of print and the second-hand prices are quite pricey, but if you do get a chance to play it, I'm sure you'll find out that it plays a lot better than it looks.
Number 4.
And number 4 is another one I'll breeze over. It's not that it's expensive, it is actually very cheap. There's not much to say about it. It's Pina Pirata. Players have a hand of cards showing 1 or 2 anthropomorphic pirates and play one from their hand that matches at least one animal on top of the discard pile. If they can't play, they draw. The first player that empties their hand wins a point. Yes, it is Uno with extra steps. When gaining a point, a player will draw 3 tiles. They keep one as a point, discard one, and the other goes into play. 4 points wins the game. But these tiles that go into play each have a different rule that allows you to play extra cards, discard cards, put a card on top of the draw deck or the discard pile, etc. And most of these will trigger when a certain animal on a card is played or a certain event is triggered, and you can have up to 6 rules in play, so it gets chaotic and very fun. It's more than just an Uno redo.
Number 3.
At number 3, we're going to do it again. We're going to have another miniatures heavy Marvel game from Come On. It's Marvel United. Players control one of the many heroes in the Marvel Universe and cooperatively try to take down a villain. Players play cards to move around the board, rescuing civilians, defeating thugs, performing heroic feats, damaging minions, and when the game allows, after a few objectives have been met, attacking the villain to defeat them. The game-controlled villain will play a card from the top of their deck, which will see them move around the board, damaging the heroes and causing chaos until they are defeated, or they complete their own endgame condition and defeat the players. Now, although the heroes that you play as don't really differ too much from each other, the 130 odd villains that you can play against each have a different challenge, usually very thematic to their character. It is mostly a co-op game, but there are abilities to play it 1 versus many, team versus team, and even cooperative with a traitor. The downside is the shelf space it takes up, with 30 boxes of stuff available if you've got in on all 3 Kickstarters. And hey, if you don't like Marvel, there's DC too.
Number 2.
Okay, no spoilers for this entry. It is the app-driven and story-driven game, Destinies. Players have a character in each scenario that will move around the board that uncovers itself as they go, interacting with the locals, finding objects, fighting monsters, and trying to complete objectives. Each character has 2 destinies, and the player that completes one of their destinies first is the winner. A lot of actions are resolved by skill checks, where you roll 2 to 5 dice and gain successes for rolling higher than your various skill tokens on your 3 skill tracks, representing intelligence, dexterity and power. The number of successes you get are added into the app and it will tell you the outcome. Yes, this could be done on cards, but the app does a lot more. It keeps the map hidden, tells you which cards to put out, which yes could be done on the cards, but it keeps the flexibility rather than printed number on the card itself. It also allows for dynamic events to occur, such as NPCs turning up or disappearing mid-game and other events occurring. I understand concerns about future-proofing apps and the concern about having an app at the table by cardboard purists. But for me, adding an app to the game like this turns the interaction up to 11 and makes this an awesome gaming experience.
And now, number 1.
Okay, I've grouped these games together for my top entries, so let's go through them all now. The first is, of course, Terra Mystica. Players have a faction each with a unique ability and use workers, money, priests and magical power to terraform hex terrains into their own type of terrain and then build buildings on that terrain. Those buildings themselves provide most of that income as well as other abilities and can be upgraded to different better buildings that each have a different income type. As buildings are upgraded, the building that you upgraded returns back to your board, so you're no longer gaining the income that building was giving you, so you have to balance what you've got out the board and what you're going to need going forward. Players score for end of round bonuses, points during the game, movement up cult tracks and endgame scoring, and the most points wins. That's a brief summary of how the game works. Now let's look at the next one, Age of Innovation. This plays similar to Terra Mystica but also adds an extra resource of books and more abilities to gain for your race via spending those books, as well as a couple of other additions. The race ability and special ability are separate and not linked to the player colour like in Terra Mystica. For example, experienced Terra Mystica players know if they're playing red, they're going to be either the Chaos Magicians or the Giants, and will know all the challenges and pitfalls that go along with playing those races. So while Age of Innovation's variability adds to replayability, the races kind of lose their identity. And the third game is, of course, Terra Nova. This is Terra Mystica stripped down to its easier to play version, taking out workers and priests as a resource, as well as tiles of buildings relating to religion, as well as the entire cult track. This turns a heavy Euro into a medium Euro, making it less daunting for new players, easier to teach, which is great for me, and it's just a better option for some of the game days I go to. Terra Mystica has been my favourite game since 2012, but with so many plays both physically and digitally by a lot of people, it's almost been solved and it's not fun to play against someone who's played 1,000 games online. Age of Innovation adds variability, reducing that solvability, but the additional rules teach from the extra elements make it a real pain to teach players new to the system. Opposing that completely, Terra Nova is easier to teach and just as satisfying to play as the other two and shorter in game length, but lacks that depth. So they all have their pros and cons and I like them all, and I'm sure you'll find one that will fit best with your group. And that's my list. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Let me know what you think is missing. Let me know if there's any of these games that you've seen on this list that you think you now want to go and give a try. And also let me know any recommendations you have based on the games that I like. Remember to like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff. It really does help the channel, and also consider being a member if you can. I've been Rob, aka JestaThaRogue. I'll see you soon.